I was like, isn't this interesting that literally you and I have been going back and forth on Facebook, back and forth for all this time.
All the time.
And then we got on each other's, you got on my calendar for the podcast during this crap storm, which has always gone on.
In Florida. Right, you're in Florida.
No, not even in Florida, in the world with that relates completely to your story, which you have been speaking for, and how many other, for organizations, people who have been shoved, no voices, anything. Or I even think of people like, myself or other people where there was just inappropriate things that had happened and we just felt shameful and never said a thing
about it.
And here you are, landed on my calendar. I looked at, when I woke up today, and I sit, not long, I'm not a long meditator. It's not my thing. But I always sit just quietly and clear my space and just ask for clarity and ask for guidance during that day. And it was wow, talk about by no coincidence. Here's this woman, her story. That was why I reached out and was I have to interview you. And here you are in this time happening in, with everything in the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a great time for women, to have a voice and for people to really get off their ass and do something, because I'm just so tired of seeing, all these people posting about human trafficking that don't care about it. They're just posting about it because it's trending and because it's what's showing up in the algorithms. And it's easy to sit at home on the laptop and say, oh yeah, this is crazy with Epstein. Do you want to see these files and this BS stuff? Who cares about this? We need to care about these women that society has tossed out. And nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about the excitement of being rescued and Operation Underground, which is an amazing organization. I am not putting them down at all. I was just up there. We do need to rescue these kids and these young women, but that doesn't end there. It actually begins there. And that's what ticks me off about what's going on with this whole Epstein and Maxwell thing. It's people are care so much more about this and our president and this. It's I understand that it matters, but what really matters is that we give these women back their lives and give them a voice. But that's not going to happen for a long time because of patriarchy and social hierarchy, and people don't want to talk about sex,
Even before we're recording, you're we should record this. I don't even know what we were talking about in all a 5-minute conversation straight up where we were just no. But as we were talking, I think we were talking about shameful things that can happen to, should we count the ways? Little girls, when you're in school with the teacher. I mean, I've always talked about going to this preparatory school where I had a teacher give me a black teddy and say, hey, I think you should try this on. I got this for you because I think you would look so great in this. Mm. And I think back to that because I just thought, oh, he's so caring.
That's your teacher. You care,
and didn't say a thing to one person. One, I don't even know if I knew it was inappropriate because I was that's weird.
But it's your teacher and you trust them, and it makes you feel oh, he cares. He's interested in me. Not even maybe sexually, just someone gives a F about me, and I'm just this girl that's trying to find her way, and nobody has told you anything about healthy sex, sexual boundaries, owning your body, owning your power. That's language that is not discussed. We either exploit sex in the media and marketing, we shame it in church, and we're weird about it at home and in school. There's no place where you can go where we are empowering women in their bodies to be healthy, to have a healthy view of their sexuality, of their sensuality, of their anatomy, to know their anatomy. Most women don't even know that there's 11 orgasms. They think there's one and they're just not having it, right? Like, so it's,
I don't know if I knew there were 11 actually. I'm like, that is something I need to study. Even before we dive further into this episode, because not only do I think this is so needed, because I know when I was having what was thought as fertility issues, my energy worker said to me, no, Rachel, this is not. This is shame of this womb. This is of the mother. This is everything. This is the heritage that has been passed down to you. And yeah, and you know what? Every doctor said I was not going to get pregnant. I got pregnant on the second night of my honeymoon. Yep. And she said, you have to always do this work so that your children, not just your daughter, your children have a different opportunity.
Yeah.
Tell everyone just a little about your story, what you do, and why you're so passionate about this like endless topic.
Endless topic. We could literally do 10 more podcasts and not even touch the surface.
We probably should.
Yeah, we should. We can pick a topic every month of something that women are wanting to work through, and we can help them work through it. But literally, you know, I was a product of the, you know, foster system. I was born to a mother who had me out of rape, and just a tough life for her and for me, unfortunately, and just was not able to really break that generational curse of what happened to her. And so unfortunately for me, it was a tough years. I experienced physical and sexual abuse as an infant, and no one should have to go through that, obviously. And from there, it's just really a lifetime of just led from one trauma to the next. Often we don't know it, but we just go home to what we've always known, even if that home is trauma and sexual assault and abuse. We just keep going back there because that's familiar to us. And so after being placed into a well-meaning but extremist fundamental Christian cult, things actually got worse. I grew up not getting the proper education or the medical care that I should have, and I grew up just thinking, you know, basically I was going to hell every day for just existing, you know. And it was very repressed, very, you'd think like Jehovah's Witness type, Mormon, even more like, what is that group of people that they have like horse and carriage, that type of living, you know, no TV, no restaurants, no outside world contact, that type of thing. So very repressive. And so from there, I got picked up very quickly. I had 4 pimps in total, but one main that my book is about, my TED Talks are about. My main experience being trafficked in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the strip clubs for over a decade, around the world. Been with the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world, seen them all the, you know, been with the royal family, been with athletes and celebrities, anyone you could imagine I've entertained. Anyone you could imagine I've entertained. So I was in that world, and I was just in prison because I just so wanted to be loved and wanted to have family and wanted to beat poverty, all the things that I'd experienced in my life. I just wanted out. And so I believed so with my whole heart and soul that this man was true. And unfortunately, you know, he wasn't. So had many near-death experiences, and finally one day just had enough leverage, the right amount of pain, and had just gone through a beating that had left me really for dead on the front porch of Gladys Knight's neighborhood around 3:30 a.m. in the morning, and just blacked out completely, couldn't even dial 911, was crazy. And so the next day I was back at work, believe it or not, with makeup all over me, all over strangulation marks and bruises everywhere. And a colleague of mine just, you know, asked me the right questions at the right time, and it just was enough leverage for me to realize I wanted out. I didn't know how. I didn't know, you know, it was their happiness for me. And that's what she asked me, don't you want to be happy? But I thought, man, you know, maybe there has to be something more than this. And I just knew in my heart he was going to kill me. It was a matter of time. I couldn't take any more concussions. I'd had so many, they said that I was going to die if I had another. And so I just was like, I gotta, you know, I have to save myself. As women, you know, we have to do that. We can't wait for someone else to do it. We've got to do it. So I saved myself, and faked my own death. As long, a lot of other things happened, but long and short was I fled to an island in Thailand, where I landed on a very small island at an ashram studying Tantra for a year, was able to heal and get back into my body, which was a huge thing because so many women have disassociated from their bodies, that haven't even been trafficked. Most women have, because of some sexual trauma, assault, something, and we're not in our bodies anymore. And so from there, I just healed. I worked extensively with my, teachers. And then I began to student teach because I really wanted to do this on a level that I thought would be transformational for the world. And I wanted just to help women because I really believed in my mind, like I didn't know I'd been trafficked at that time, actually. It wasn't until I came back to the US that I knew. Trafficking wasn't what it was today. And truthfully, most women, they don't really know what's happened to them until they come out. And so, so after that, I just, made it my mission to find a way to take my 10 years of experience of hell and merge it with what I had learned, which was Tantra, and come up with a cool modality that was healing for women. And so that's what I was talking to you about, that I just launched the Dance On Boot Camp, which is basically a blend of 10 years as a dancer. So everything I learned about striptease, the art of seduction, along with various types of other world dance mixed with Tantra yoga, breath work. I'm a Reiki master, and NLP has been my recent passion that I've mastered, or not mastered, but that I'm studying. And I created just this healing modality for women to find their bodies again, and to discover them, and to discover pleasure, and to feel safe there, and to get a great workout too. And so that's just one of the things I do. But that was just a little bit about my story of getting out. And I didn't know if you wanted to chat a little more before.
I think even just to hear this part, because I know so many coaches struggle and what am I going to offer, and what freebies and what workshops. And I always say, as you and I were talking before, on how we built our business and where did it come from and the why behind it. There are a few things, is that I think a lot of us in this digital world, we have deviated from saying, what do I know I'm supposed to teach? Like not what the business coach or this content marketer or the best, highest paid Facebook ad person out there, but like really, when the cameras are off and no one's listening, and it's just like me and whomever I pray to. Like what's my why? And not just do that. Yeah, why did I go through my hell? Whatever that hell is.
And I just got goosebumps because it's like, for me, it was like, yes, I'm a Tantra coach. Absolutely. Do I do Tantra retreats? Yes, I'm doing one the end of September in Playa del Carmen with a very attractive ex-NFL player who teaches with me. So that's my main, that is what I do. And I coach men as well. However, when I was on that island, I knew right away, you hit it. I said, I don't want to be just another Tantra coach. I'd already gone to IIA, and I told you about that. I actually attended IIA in my first yoga training with Dharma Mitra in New York while I was still being trafficked. It was like kind of the last leg that helped me get out before I went to Thailand. And I just thought, I want to create something that is like
not out there. That is not out there.
Not out there. That's women can grab a hold of and say, oh my God, like I want this. I'm not a good copywriter. I'm actually not. I wrote my book in a day, but I spoke it because I'm a speaker. I'm not a writer. I had a learning disability from all the concussions I have. So now I'm dyslexic, both numbers and letters. And so for me, it's very challenging to write copy.
I'm the same way. I'm like, is she my sister from another part?
I think so.
But what's crazy is the part that I love, I love this for so many different reasons, and hell to the yes, if you really are dead serious about showing up weekly, is that, and teaching on this, is that when I built this business, I had no idea how I was going to do it.
Yeah.
I turned to my husband. It was 10 years ago in the last, recession, which, I mean, come on, look at history.
I
We
was
always
there.
have these.
We always could. Yeah, we have
We
these.
always have these. And he was like, well, crap. Okay. So we just lost our entire business, everything, owned our house. I just graduated. I was about to graduate from IM. And he was like, what are we going to do? Do you want to go like back to commercial real estate? You can call blah, blah, blah. You could negotiate like working from home. I said, you know what? I'm going to build this health coaching thing,
Yeah.
and I'm going to make enough money. He was like, how are you going to do it? I said, and I looked at my two little ones who she was 6 months old. My son was 2 years older than that. I said, I have no idea, but I know I didn't go through everything in my life.
Yeah.
And that I'm still here, and that I'm functioning despite all the in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just whatever, fill in your blank.
Yeah. Fill in the blank.
And I was like, and I know like I'm meant to give a voice to all the stuff that I kept inside. I felt like I was alone. And when I hear you speak, it's like, come on, people. This isn't so complicated. You're making it complicated because
there's just so much repression, if I may. There's
Yeah.
so much repression around sexuality. I mean, I even just came out of, and it pains me to say this because, Tony Robbins was a huge part of my rehabilitation after I came back to the US and decided, okay, now I have this training. Now I'm free. I have a 10-year gap history, a job history that I can't put on a resume. What do you do? I have a 7th grade education. I didn't work for 10 years. Oh, I worked, but trust me, you don't want to see what I did. I can't write that on a job. And now I have a newborn and I'm homeless in Newport Beach. It's like, I was the same way. I was like, what am I going to do? And I didn't know, but I knew that there was a way. So like this was created in Thailand, like the concept of Dansom and the work. And I taught it all over Singapore and Thailand. And then I had my son, came here, had my son. And then I was like, okay, now I'm really in the real world now. I'm not overseas. I'm not a third world country, or less developed, I guess you're supposed to say. But I'm like here and the
I'm a mom, and I can't just be like, oh, this is my side hustle. It's like, no, this is my work. I've got to like really.
Yeah, I got to figure it out. And I wasn't. I had postpartum. I was suicidal. I had PTSD, as you can imagine, going through all that abuse for so many years. And then I have a baby. And Tony pulled me out. Like I commented on something. He reached out to me. He started sending me to his events. He, like very much so invested in my work and in my nonprofit and now in the women I serve and through the nonprofit. And then I just did this UPW virtual and there was like 22,000 people in the group. And I did a live the other day and I thought, oh, it's interesting that nothing is showing up. Like, you can see when people come on, no one was coming up. I'd been on there 12 minutes. So I deleted the video. I thought, this is weird. And I didn't think anything about it. I thought maybe it was bad reception and I wasn't really live. So last night I would go into post, right? A comment. And I made it super generic. I said, what's your evening routine look like so that you can get up in the morning and do your TR rituals? And I sent it. And then I got a notification. The admin approved your post. So they blocked me from posting unless it's approved. And I thought, wow. Of all the 23,000 people in the group, I've now been silenced again. Because people don't want to talk about sex. And I wasn't coming out or talking about sex or anything. I would share little bits of my story, like I overcame this and I'm so glad I was able to do this with my son. But I wasn't talking about sex like you and I are, I wouldn't do that. But the fact that they blocked me from posting unless they approved it, that's how deep the sex and the sexual shame and repression is in our society. People can't even wrap their mind around it. But yet we can go and watch a film with overtly, sexiness in it and a music video and a product on television and a radio commercial and a magazine is all sex. But if someone comes around and says, I want to give you relationship tips for intimacy, and they look like me, then all of a sudden now I'm being censored from posting in the group. And I just thought this, and last night I just went, I was like, it's bringing me to tears now. I'm like, why do I even do this?
I know that the people, not the people, the women specifically that I follow, and I feel like, wow, okay, she really needs to be on my emotional support daily text chat, because I said to my husband, I said, I feel like I'm emotionally dying. And he said, why? I said, my whole life has been about speaking what people feel shameful to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's no matter what the topic is, it's like, because I feel that so much of the pain and the judgment and the fear that we all live in is just because we're so scared that somebody may just find that stuff isn't completely together.
It's not together, and it's not what we've been told. And for me, it's like, I get so effed up because it's like, I'm serving women that are suicidal, that society has fucked off. And I go up to Operation Underground and with 4 other nonprofits there. And the donor looks at every single person and says, I want to write you a check. I want to write you a check, after he's heard our stories. And he says, I want to give you a hug. That's how deep it goes. My nonprofit isn't worthy of the check. I'm worthy of a hug, but everyone else is worthy of a check. And it has to stop, because I'm out there doing the work that no one wants to do. No one wants to rehabilitate these women. And I'm in the beginning stages of my business. I'm not balling out of control. I am like making it, like barely, and I know it's going to grow exponentially if I stay consistent and do the work. But it's like, people want to shame me for speaking a truth that could save their children's life.
I think the toughest thing, and what I've seen in the industry, it's gone on for a long time. I would say right now it's 100-fold. And I get, we've talked about, we talked about the pain of many, many people. And right now in the world, everyone feels to some world oppressed, silenced, they don't have a voice.
Yeah.
What I can see, and I say this as a white Jewish woman, I mean, I really just like as setting the record straight, because I do not step into the shoes. I can tell people that when I went to Cuernavaca in Mexico, and we were there for building, we were building a water system in an area that didn't have any. Speaking to an indigenous woman that said, the military, my baby had a temperature, they don't let us leave our village. And so I said, I have to take my baby to the hospital. And the military put the gun right into the baby's face, blew the head off, and said to her, you don't have to go anywhere now. And what I only say that because I know what happens what I'm thinking happens is what happens in our human psyche, is that life feels hard. And so for whatever reason, we think somebody else's life is maybe a little easier for whatever reason, whether they look a certain way, they act a certain way, they have a little more extroverted personality. We all make judgment, myself included.
Yeah.
And I think that's the blessing that I have to keep looking at the silver lining, because I'm like, got to really look at the silver linings, is that maybe we will come out of this not judging. We saw this in the Super Bowl. We saw this with J-Lo. We saw this with Shakira. It turned into not even about sexuality. It turned into a racial issue.
Yeah.
And it turned really dark and ugly, really, really fast on Facebook, Instagram, social media. We saw this with Danielle Laporte many, many years ago. Do a black and white, forget what she did as a promo. It got really, really dark and ugly really fast. Mm-hmm. I'm not in defense of anybody, because what I see right now is an explosion of, just like you said, it's like, these are all topics that have been buried. Mm-hmm. These are all topics that are exploding at the same time. And these are all topics that as you said, are driven by a machine, not even the system.
No, it's just a machine. It's like, I am the minority of all minorities. You know, I'm mixed. I was this, I'm now, you know, I was in the military. I was discharged a day before my benefits. I have a learning disability. I'm basically a scarlet red letter because I was a prostitute for a decade. You know, it's like, I can't get any more minority. And it's like, I'm not sitting here saying, feel sorry for me. I'm sitting here creating. I'm dealing with women nobody wants to help. And you still want to silence me. You still don't want to support or even listen to something that could save your marriage or even save your kid's life, right?
Who do you feel? Because I think this, I was listening to Sunny, who talks a lot about YouTube. I've been watching a bunch of just influencers that I would say again, this isn't for any one specific issue, because I would say in August of 2020, this year of 2020, mm-hmm. there are a lot of issues and they are all valid. And I'm kind of the person that's like, I don't want to rob anyone of their emotion, because that's not for me. Because emotion is emotion. I would say in the current condition right now, as we talked about earlier, do you feel that this is so insidious and so ingrained that it makes people uncomfortable to talk about this? Do you think it's that the shame is so deep from mother to daughter, from that lineage of even woman down? You know, where do you think that starts? And then we can even attack the social media and the media, because I think even the check to the hug is even a whole nother separate issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a couple things. One is that we live in La La Land, and it's La La Land and also programmed La La Land, right? Like, everything's great. Drink this, you know, soda, eat at McDonald's, Coke, Pepsi, you know, Pepsi, milk, all this stuff. And I'm not saying be vegan and all that stuff. I've found, you know, it's more about.
It's just a Band-Aid. It's just, we're like, hey, here's this commercial propaganda. You're going to be so happy.
Exactly. And it's all this stuff has been programmed into us, so much so, even about like the human trafficking world. It's like, oh, this is like the movie Taken. They're taking these girls and selling them on these yachts, and it's less developed countries. Kids are chained to beds. And does that happen? Yes. Is it awful? Yes. Should they be rescued? Absolutely. But is it happening here in your neighborhood? The answer is yes. And that's what people don't want to acknowledge.
Why do you think that? So I think that's, and I've had a lot of talks with people of all different places in this world, in all different parts of the country, just saying, you know, clearly we have a global problem.
Yeah.
So if we really want to go with change, because we all know we have tons of things that are out of control.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the part that we do have control over. Why do you think with human behavior is that we go eyes wide shut?
Well, it's a couple reasons. And this is why I think I'm such an interesting person, because I'm not to my own horn, but it's like I am, because what I came out of is, you know, the worst of humanity, right? People in the strip clubs buying humans, having to go to hotels. Like, it's awful, you know, and the people that are doing it are not these predatorial people. Are those in there too? Yeah, you stay away from them. But you're a dad, not your dad per se.
Your doctor. No, I mean, your doctor, your
people, your pastor. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that is the thing. And I'm all for women's empowerment, and I teach form of striptease in my dance, but I am not for strip clubs. I am not for that, because I know that most women are not there by their own will. And I know what it's done, that it's feeding this industry. So talk about pandemic. You want to talk about pandemic? It's human trafficking. That's the pandemic we need to be worried about. But why this human behavior? It's because me coming out of something so crazy and then turning around and going into that very field of sexuality, healthy sexuality, empowered sexuality in relationships, people, it doesn't sit well with them. And then the fact that I'm the executive director and founder of a nonprofit that works with women that have been sex trafficked. They're like, that doesn't go together. You need to like not be hot and sexy anymore and wear a sackcloth. And the way I choose to market myself on Instagram, I get that that might be triggering to people, but don't say like I'm not valid in teaching people how to have healthy sexuality and still rescuing women. Like, why can I not do both? So the bottom line is that it's like people have to put that association together. Like, people I know are contributing to sex trafficking, and they don't want to think that. People in your community that you trust, they want to think like, oh, so it's better just to ignore it and just to talk about Ghislaine and Epstein and Trump. We're not talking about these girls. No one's like, are those girls okay? What's happened to them?
Yeah. Well, that was on the news for a hot second.
For a hot second, but then it gets old. It's like, who cares about women that were screwing other men for money? Do you know what I'm saying? That's what we all believe. It's ingrained in us. So it's like, we want to talk about the celebrities and the scandals, and they're going in and, you know, kicking down doors and rescuing children. That's more exciting. I said that the other day. What I do is not exciting to people, because I have to deal with, and I don't want to, I'm not calling these women the mess up, but I have to deal with like the stuff that nobody wants to deal with.
Well, and I don't think it even is the mess up. I think I always say, I think these kind of topics, they are hard. And, you know, even in these last few months, I've noticed on social media, it's like, wow, I'll go and talk about how hard this time is for a person like me who's dealt with anxiety, panic attacks, all this different stuff, all my fill in the blanks. And nobody wants to hear that, but they want to see somebody at a restaurant and beach being like, oh my God, the summer's amazing. And I sit there and I think, funny, because I see that, but all the messages that are coming into my phone personally are like,
People freaked out.
Rachel, what are you doing? Like, you know, my hair's falling out. My son's having a panic attack. He's back on drugs. Like, or, you know, my husband's drinking, and like all these falling apart talks.
But nobody wants to post that stuff because that doesn't get a lot of attention. Right? And people are addicted to the likes because it's addicted to their worth and their worth and their value as a human. Because the number one fear that humans have is the fear that we won't be enough, and it leads us to the number two fear we have, that we won't be loved. So if we're not enough and we won't be loved, we've got to do that. And how do we do that? We do it by creating significance on the platform that's connecting the whole world together now, social media, right?
Well, and I think that a really big thing that is hard is it is hard, very, very difficult to look at things that we trust. We trust that doesn't happen. We live on this certainty that, oh, well, that's not happening in my neighborhood.
My white picket fence, like, sort of thing.
Well, and what I would say is that, yeah, watching movies, and I would say the unveiling has been happening for a long time. It's just, you have to really be searching.
It didn't make the front page news because there wasn't a celebrity involved in it. And I used to be that person that was fascinated with these celebrities, but then I started seeing them in my clubs, and then I saw they were just real people too. And, you know, I've met Britney Spears. She wanted my hair. I've met all these people, you know, in Vegas, living there a decade and working in the clubs. You meet them all, you see them all, you see they're just like you and I. They put our pants on the same way. They just have a lot more money and often a lot more problems, you know, because of the complexity of that. Everyone wants something from them. They don't know who's really in their life, you know. So I think there was no celebrities attached to it. So now that we had like this very publicized man, Epstein, and this weird kind of interesting brain, and then we have Trump and all these people and the popes, Andrew, whatever, you know who I'm talking about.
The road.
It became exciting. Oh, cool. But people were missing the whole message. And then, you know, it's like the conspiracy.
I mean, and I know, because trust me, I've said to my husband, I said, you know, it's interesting because these problems are always there.
Yeah.
These problems of these, what I call glaring issues on the table. They've always been here, and it always comes back to the same thing. It's like, we don't just wake up with disease, and we don't just wake up, and go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know that. These issues are around. It's just whether they make a headline or they make it somewhere to make it visible to
Correct.
masses. I think the part that will require change for a revolution to change the way that we all function is, why do you feel that it's still uncomfortable? I mean, I know why for even a woman, let's just even play out a scenario, because I know people just like this, and I know people who don't even fight it on social media, but the shame and the guilt, they're like, well, yes, this did happen, but you know, I just don't need to see it publicly.
Yeah,
I mean, it does it, and that's the part is, I want to even talk about the solution. Have we lacked, and this is something I've been talking about a lot, because PTSD, one of my best friends was military, was special forces, and he and I always talk, it shows up in the strangest places in our life.
It does.
So are we not, you know, he's a vet, so, you know, similar to kind of, it's like, we're okay being like, oh my God, way to go, vets. We love you. But we don't want to see what it's actually like on the
homeless on the street. We don't want to see you.
And we actually don't want to see what you actually have to do.
Yeah. It's just like people eating meat. And I'm not saying to not eat meat. My son actually ate an organic grass-fed beef hot dog the other day. Yesterday, someone at the pool gave it to him. And I told them, well, asked my son, he's 5. And he said, it's so good, Mom. I'm like, you know, you're eating an animal. Are you okay eating a cow now? And he's like, I was like, are you okay with cows dying? And he said, well, I didn't kill it, Mom. And I said, God, man, like, I said, okay, if you want. He goes, I like these, but can you just get me some of the plant-based ones the next time you're at the store, you know? And the thing is, like, I don't want to sway him either way. Like, I have raised him plant-based. He does eat fish and stuff here and there. And obviously we eat eggs and things, but it's like, people don't want to see the process of how meat is done. And here's my thing. If you want to eat meat, go support a local farmer. Go help him butcher the thing. You still want to eat it? Then eat it, you know? But people don't want to see all the other stuff that goes into it. And they don't want to see what's really going on, because again, I think it goes back to, they have to admit this. Listen, we're talking $150 billion global industry. So are we saying, oh, that's not America? No, in fact, it's mostly us, because when you go to the foreign countries, those are the buyers. They say, you know, Caucasian men are buying these children. And I know what's going on. I've worked with the girls who's buying these women, and it's men. And it's, the thing is, when you do the numbers on it, it forces you to open your eyes and say, oh my God, this is in my community. It's happening to the kid that my son or daughter goes to school with. During the day, she's in class, but at night she's on campsites, or on the weekend she's being trafficked out, and her parents don't know because they're working, or they're not in touch with their kids. So this is the stuff, or it's happening at church, you know, or it's happening.
I totally forget the name of the basketball. He was like very famous, and yet he was the one, the basketball coach who had molested the kids.
Oh, girls or whatever.
The boys. And I mean, I'm not saying that it all gets kind of, trafficking is very different from that. And at the same time, that's the part where I feel that people are like, oh, well, but it's not happening here. It's like, but there's enough information all around where it's in local communities. And I think that's the part that I know. And you and I could talk about this forever. Is it the shame? Is it the guilt? Is it the fear? Or maybe it's all of it, and we're not.
It's all of it. It's coming from, you know, Tony says the mind, or, you know, the conscious, the collective programming consciousness of the world that's been around for generations, like you were talking about. It's the shame of sex. People can't even say the word. They're like, if you say sex on social media, you'll get kicked off. I have been kicked off of every platform. LinkedIn closed my account and told me to act professional. And I asked them, what did I do wrong? They said, you weren't acting professional. This is the second time. They're not giving it back to me. I said, I am acting professional. I used your hashtags around sex therapy, relationship sex. Like I used all their stuff. And they, the thing is, it's so ingrained that sex is bad. It is wrong. It's something to be done in secret. You masturbate in private. I like to, self-pleasure with the door unlocked, just because it's just to undo the unfucking myself, like the book, it's like, leave my house door unlocked. Okay, good, come, because there's been so much of it. Like, it's bad, it's wrong. We have to hide. With Snapchat, we've created the Snapchat generation of your genital pictures disappear in 30 seconds. That's what our kids are being programmed to think. And I'm not saying encourage your kids to send pictures.
You're not saying this as a major generalization. I think the part that I love about what you're saying and the way that I feel is, here we are in this world where all we talk about is freedom of speech and the right to show up.
Yeah.
And say, and I feel that, and again, this is just I feel that the beauty of each one of us in our own story, in our own divine right, in our own healing and journey of our own stuff, is to know that there is somebody similar to us that is out there, and they are our ideal client with no apology. Yeah. And I think the hardest thing is that when we do have, and I've gone through this myself, when we have old stuff, our own stuff of being silenced or put to the side or judged because, even in this conversation, man, are we being open, like judged, like, oh, well, look at her, she's got this great body. Oh, you must not get it, or my husband always say to me, he's like, can you please wear like some kind of padded bra? I was like, why are you angry that my nipples just pop out? He's like, I know you've always had great boobs, but you know what? I don't think tons of moms like you.
Yeah.
Because, and what's interesting is that goes even bigger. It goes to even of just, I would say, judgment of each other. It's, I would always say, why is somebody looking at my purse before they look at my face?
Yeah. Well, it's a symbol of like, who is this person? What does she represent? And then once I get to her, then I can make my judgment. It's like everything else except for you is judged. But you're right. It is ultimately about being judged. It's ultimately about feeling the shame around. Shame is the number one. And by the way, it's the lowest vibration. If you know the David Hawkins emotional vibration chart, shame, and Brene Brown talks about this too. Shame is the lowest. It's a 20 on a scale of 1,000. It's the lowest one. And so we have this massive shame around sex. And then we have the fear of being judged. And fear is only like, it's barely up there on the scale too, like 100 out of 1,000. So we have shame and fear, shame around sex, fear around being judged. And so we just clam up.
Fear I'm not enough. Fear I'm too much. I mean, I think that's when I think of, okay, with all these really big topics, with the rise of, because when I look at all these emotions similar to you, I look at disease. I go, okay, so here's all these emotions, and then let's look at the stats. Yeah. All this emotional disease, all this spiritual disease, rise of every different thing that I can see. And it's like, and we feel the most broken. We feel the most unloved. We feel all these different emotions. So, to come out of a place where we are like taking away each other's pain, saying, you shouldn't feel that. And I understand why. That's the part is that, and I'll say this again, it's like, I'm white. It's like I'm a white Jewish girl. Even in just this, I cannot, and I would never try to say I'm stepping in anybody's shoes. And at the same time, the world that I birthed my kids into and why I became a coach is my entire life. I felt that I was judging myself to that really tall girl with the blonde hair. I felt that I was not enough. I judged myself constantly.
Yeah. Well, we
To
all,
the magazines, the high standard. And I don't just think I don't even think it's other people. I feel that we do that internally as women. We do that internally in a society of men, of people. And that's what I feel is, if you want to run your business or your life or your anything, to just depersonalize from how it triggers, and either say, go on girl with your bad self, or just be like, she's not my person.
yeah. And the thing is, it all does stem from, you know, how we view ourselves. And unfortunately, most women view Kardashians as like the one meets all, like, you know, or these influencers now that are so photoshopped, so like, I know influencers, I have friends that are, you know, millions of followers, and all their stuff is it's photoshopped. I do a lot of shoots myself too. I try to keep them as natural as possible.
Impossible.
Don't like a ton, a little bit, you know, to maybe go with the colors of the brand, but like, I just, because it fucks people up. And first of all, it's so photoshopped, then there's so many filters. What you're seeing is not really how that person looks, but people have, it's become a mental health issue now of comparing themselves to other people and wanting to be them so bad, instead of loving the body that they're in and being content with that, or being in a healthy state of saying, like, I love my body, I love myself, I want to do. And I'm an advocate of, like, if you want to do plastic surgery, okay, fine, just make sure that the reason you're doing it is not so that you'll love yourself. You're doing it to enhance what you already have, and you want to feel more confident than you already do. Great. So I'm that person too, and everything I talk about is very shocking, because I'm not going to say don't do plastic surgery. If that's something you want to do, just know that whatever uncertainty or whatever things you feel about yourself are not going to get better with food. They're going to get worse, because I had mine done, and then it was like, I remember I was like, oh my God, I want another. And most of the girls I worked with had 4 and 5 nose jobs and 4 and 5 boob jobs, because it's like the first time wasn't enough. Now it's like, oh my God, it's like not this.
Even when we work with somebody, I remember working with so many people that would say to me, oh, well, I mean, it must just be really easy for you to be so small. You're so small. And I always would say, nothing's easy in this life. Like, everything takes a regimen. And for some of us, like, my addiction isn't as much massively overeating. I said I was more like a binge eater, stress, like deny the food. I said, but other people, for some, food's the top addiction. For other, it's cheating. For other, it's alcohol. For drugs, like, whatever the glaring thing is.
Yeah.
But it takes just saying, I want to, like, take care of my body. I want to take care of who the heck I am, because life is tough. And I think that's the part where the judgment comes in, is that we do think, oh, this person, like Kim Kardashian, oh, she must just have it so easy. She's got X money, when nobody even knows her. And I think that's the other part, is I have followed you for the longest time.
Yeah.
This is our first conversation. Yeah. So I could sit here and pass all this judgment on you and be like, damn, her boobs are the bomb. Look, you know, it's like, oh my God. And even as we were recording this, you know, I think this is the part that I've had to learn to be honest with myself. Like, we got on and I was like, oh my God, she looks so great. I look so haggard today. But
I was doing live for my boot camp, so I probably wouldn't have looked as good if I hadn't done that.
But that's also the honesty of where I've had to get to in my life, because my insecurities had me not in that hashtag women supporting women, because I felt so insecure, so inferior. So that's how insidious this is.
This is, because you're right, but that's the root. If we're raising our kids like that, and listen, you know, epigenetics and all that stuff now, it doesn't matter if we tell them that, they feel it, which is why I do so much work with my son now, and healing and Reiki and all the stuff we're doing, because I know and he told me the other day, he said, Mom, he just turned 5. He said, how do I get all the thoughts out of my head to stop? He said, and in a moment I got sad because I felt like, wow, he's lost that, like that innocence now. He knows what he's experiencing the mind now, and he's cognizant
My
of it.
son is the same way. My son is me, and I always say to my son, honey, and I've said this, he listened to Tony Robbins, Les Brown, and Eric Thomas from the day they couldn't even talk. I was like, you hear this? No one's going to pave the way. You hear this? Like, and I would always say, you've grown up in a world that will never make any sense to you.
Yeah.
Grown up in a world where you are constantly trying to figure out these like paths and these roads. And the mistake that I made was always to get so overwhelmed and to try to figure out like why people did things. It doesn't always, make sense.
It doesn't always make, yeah. And the thing is, like, it's always about patterns, but if we don't interrupt the pattern of how we're training our young men and women to not love themselves and to feel that they're less than and to feel shame and to feel like they can't come forward, then they're going to be easy targets for predators, for pimps. And the men, our boys that are growing up to men, are going to become socially awkward and socially depressed around sex, that often it leads them to porn by mistake. And by the way, the age that a child sees porn is 11. And almost all of those kids said they didn't go looking for it. It appeared in a pop-up window or on a home computer, which meant someone in the home was watching it. And the other third shocking thing is, I have this whole lecture on porn, is that they're not learning. Kids between 14 and 19 have sent their first naked selfie or sex video between that age. And they said they didn't learn about sex from school or from their parents, or certainly not from church. But those same kids that are sexually active between 14 and 19 said that they learned about sex from porn. And so porn is obviously not a good indicator of how to treat a woman, because most of the porn, there's a tiny little percent of women own porn that makes really conscious porn, and it's all about the woman and it's all about empowering her. It's like the romance novels, but that is like this percent. And you know what? That stuff doesn't sell because nobody wants to see that. We want to see the porn where women are getting beat up, where they're getting gangbanged, where it's a stepdaughter and daddy, right? Or the newest trend is putting the girl's head in the toilet while she's being penetrated from the back and flushing it down. And so that's what, like, potentially, right, our kids could be watching as their first sexual experience. Then we wonder why we have issues like human trafficking. And then we wonder, and then furthermore, it's like, rewind that back. Okay, let's rewind. If we had talks with our children around sex now, like, my son knows everything, basically everything, and the proper terms. He understands. And we had sex with our daughters and our kids. And we had women like myself that came in and educated them in a way that's age appropriate, but still says.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I did that. My husband, we were just talking about this last week, and he said to me, I knew something was just a core fundamental of who you were because of how you spoke to our children, how you said to them, this is what's appropriate if a doctor, but I have to be there. And if a teacher ever does this, no, you're coming right home. A babysitter, he said, well, was that because something happened? I said, see, it doesn't matter if something happened. No, it doesn't happen. It's a foundation of how we were taught many years ago, because the family was a unit and you didn't have kids in all these different being taken care of by teachers at school and all everything.
And the power struggle of patriarchy, especially, it's for men too, but mostly for women and a man. That's why we see more of that. But the thing is, like, if you have talked to your children about sex and not shame them when they've done, like, stuff sexually that they're just curious about, and you just explain to them, like, my son's like, Mom, you can touch my penis. I'm like, no, I can't if I'm helping you clean it because he's not circumcised. Right. But I said, that's for you. That's your special.
Yours.
The thing is, and I say, that's for no one to touch but you. until one day when you're much older, one day. And I tell him, but the thing is, parents just call it a wee wee or pee pee or yes, or the private. And it's like, you put so much shame around it already that, and I know, because I deal with all the men that can't, they can't get erections, or they're coming too quickly because they masturbated and they was worried about someone coming in, or all
that
these.
was interesting. See, I will say, one, this is one of the most epic conversations. I mean, I would say for so many reasons, because for so many reasons. For it on a big vision, for it on things that have gone around, I mean, forever. I remember when we were in South Africa, and our tour guide said, "Do you know why we have one of the highest, rates in AIDS?" And he was explaining in the tribal ways. Mm-hmm. They would go on, you would go on for hunting, mm-hmm. and a man would, have sex with another man to show that he was the more dominant. He said, this is not being gay, which is how you guys view it. This was tribal. This was how, he's like, and that's not to say, oh, I forget, that's disgusting them. He's like, it's to look at how tribes that have been around forever.
Yeah, they created their culture.
And, I think that if we really look at this from many, many moons, this has never been something to shame and hide. We've put that on. And the other part is that you opened up so many amazing topics, which I know we can close this out, because I think we really closed this out on what is the solution. I mean, I know, like we said, even with the, oh my God, damn, she looks so good. It's that I could either leave here and be like, damn, she looks so good, and shame myself all day, or be like, damn, she looks so good. Okay, Rach, like go make yourself however that feels for me.
Or however it feels for you. And that's the solution. I mean, the solution is what we talked about, is like, have the conversations with your children and start it super young, like very young. And the other thing is do this work. Like this, I didn't just become this, and I worked, very, very hard on learning how to balance the masculine and feminine energy, which is what I teach in Tantra. That's what Tantra is, helping women. Because often women who are boss babes like yourself, it's not that you're not feminine, it's you spend so much time being masculine that you need someone like me to help you to get back in tune with your feminine side. That's all. That's like really what I do, is I help.
Also, I think what you so beautifully said when we were talking about just like, hey, if you want to go do this, you go do it. If you want to do this, is that to come out of, I would say fear-based judgment. I could have, come and been like, damn, screw her, the jealousy, the stuff that the 7 deadly sins, which we all have, is just to, sit there. And I know for me to really be in my moment and take time to say, what did that trigger? What was the first memory? Like, I'm going to go let go of this. I'm going to be honest in this so that I don't carry this on in my home.
Take that on to the next day, the next client, the next engagement.
The next anything.
I mean, I have them too, it's like, but I was in a world where it was like my life depended on me being perfect and looking perfect. And it's taken me years to undo that. And I've now find a really healthy balance of still looking good, feeling good. And it was my little rule. This is what I did in Thailand, is like, however much time I spent on getting ready, I spent double that time on my practice. My person, for me, it was my practice in the morning. So if I spend an hour, it's like 2 hours, So that's something that I learned. And now it takes me, especially when I have my braids in, it literally takes me 10 minutes to get ready. But, so it's all about finding that and diving into the feminine and being, like you said, women, empowering women, partnering
being okay with yourself, like with no meaning. I had a conversation really quick the other day with somebody, and they said, oh, well, that's their value system. And I said, even just by you saying that, that's a judgment. Mm-hmm. I said, I love driving my big truck. Yeah. I love the things I love. And that's my choice.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think if we stop casting this, oh, your value system, and we just go, Girl, you are living this life. Thank
Yeah.
God you have made it through this 86,400 seconds today. Okay. Like in that we're just, accepting each other. You want to live in Crocs all day? Awesome. You want to live in your, to just go back to a time where we're not, and I say this again for myself, like not judging out of fear and
Yeah.
checking ourselves always on intention, always on reason. And if it is real, then doing that, like I call it the 6-point check and then going,
Yeah, just seeing and being able to, at this point in time, the power of like connecting with other women and collabing with other women. There's so much competition, and it's like it has become a disease
yeah.
of, oh, I can't help her because she might be better than me or she might steal something, instead of, and the more that we can annihilate that, it's like we have to look out for other women, and the more we come together, the more powerful we'll be, and we'll learn something from them. And so I just really want to see more of that, which is why I created the Facebook group, because I wanted more women to feel more empowered and to work together. Yeah.
Yeah, man, well, I love how you post, but also I'm more your ideal client. And I think that's where we got to just say, like put your hands up for those who like rise above and
Yeah.
just, if you ain't your ideal client, just look the other way. You'll find your other person. Can you tell everyone before we go, it's going to be in the show notes, where people can find you and all that stuff?
So the ofactors.com, super fun site, and it just has everything about me, and it has my store, the Orgasmic Life store. So I have all kinds of conscious sexual toys and items for women. So everything from yoni steaming to jade eggs to crystal wands versus using plastic dildos, the plastic inside of you. So I have everything for a woman to live the orgasmic life. And then if you're interested in my nonprofit, beyondfreedominternational.org. But my YouTube, you can find it directly on my site. I post content 3 times a week. It's all free. And yeah, so.
Guys, if you are not inspired, I don't know what else is more inspiring than like a talk between 2 women getting really real.
Yeah,
No matter what your story is, no matter where you've come from. So guys, thanks so much. Please follow this amazing woman. If you feel, called to support her organization, please do, because I don't think I need to say any more about that.
Yeah, that is perfect. Awesome.
All right, guys, we will see you soon. Let us know if you have any questions. All right. Bye, guys.